Long before Bethlehem's manger, long before the dusty roads of Galilee ever felt his footsteps, Jesus already was. Not as a distant promise waiting to be fulfilled, and not as a figure slowly coming into existence. He existed before time itself, unseen, uncreated, eternal. The scriptures reveal that Christ did not begin in history. History began through him. And this truth alone challenges everything the world assumes about who Jesus truly is. For there is a version of Jesus that few dare to imagine. Not the gentle carpenter, not the teacher surrounded by crowds, but the glorified Lord, radiant with uncontainable holiness, clothed in authority that shakes creation itself. This Jesus is not shaped by human expectations. His presence is overwhelming. His glory is terrifying and beautiful at the same time. And when he is revealed, human strength collapses under the weight of divine reality. This revelation did not come to an emperor on a golden throne, nor to a priest standing in a temple of stone. It came to a man in exile, a common man, isolated, forgotten by the world. And when the veil was lifted, when the true Christ stood revealed, the impact was immediate. The human body could not endure it. He fell to the ground as though dead. This is not merely a vision meant to inspire hope. It is a confrontation with eternity itself. A direct unveiling of Jesus Christ in his purest form, without limits, without concealment, without compromise. And once this Jesus is seen, he can never again be reduced to a memory, a symbol, or a simple historical figure. God had spoken. John was not seeking a vision when it happened. He was not standing in a temple surrounded by incense and ceremony. He was exiled, banished to the barren island of Patmos, cut off from the churches he loved, isolated because of his testimony for Jesus Christ. The world had silenced him. Rome believed it had reduced his voice to nothing. And yet, on an ordinary day of worship, heaven broke through. The silence of the island was suddenly pierced by a sound unlike anything human. It was not gentle. It was not familiar. It was a voice like a trumpet, clear, commanding, unstoppable, cutting through the air with authority that could not be ignored. It did not ask for attention, it seized it, and John knew immediately this was not the voice of a man. His heart raced as he turned to see who was speaking. But what stood before him defied every category of human understanding. This was no earthly presence, no angelic messenger passing by. The atmosphere itself seemed to tremble. Time felt suspended. John was no longer merely standing on Patmos. He was standing at the threshold between earth and eternity. In that moment, the exile was forgotten. The chains of persecution no longer mattered. Heaven had chosen to speak, and the voice behind him carried the weight of absolute authority. What John was about to see would redefine everything he thought he knew about Jesus Christ and about power itself. Among the 7 golden lampstands, John saw someone like a son of man. At first glance, the language feels familiar. But the vision quickly surpasses anything ordinary. This was not the Jesus who once walked the hills of Galilee. This was Christ revealed, clothed in glory beyond human comprehension. He was dressed in a robe reaching down to his feet, with a golden sash across his chest, royal, priestly, eternal. His hair was white like wool, as white as snow, not with age, but with timeless purity. His eyes were like blazing fire, seeing all things, judging all things, hiding nothing. Nothing could escape that gaze. His feet glowed like bronze refined in a furnace, unshakable, immovable, absolute in authority. and his voice was like the sound of rushing waters, carrying the power of creation itself. When he spoke, it was as though the universe listened. From his mouth came a sharp, double-edged sword, not of metal, but of truth, cutting through deception, exposing every heart. And his face shone like the sun in all its brilliance. Not reflected light, not borrowed glory. This was inherent radiance. This was not symbolism. This was revelation. John was not imagining a vision. He was beholding Jesus Christ as he truly is, eternal, glorified, and sovereign. The moment John understood who stood before him, his strength vanished. This was not fear born of danger, nor awe stirred by beauty alone. It was something far deeper, holy fear. The kind that overwhelms the human soul when it comes face to face with unfiltered divinity. John, the disciple who had leaned on Jesus' chest, now stood exposed before his cosmic glory. When I saw him, I fell at his feet as though dead. Not in worship, not in reverence alone, but because mortal flesh cannot endure the full weight of the glorified Christ without grace. The presence of Jesus was unbearable, not because it was cruel, but because it was infinitely pure. Then, something unexpected happened. The same hand that upholds the universe reached down and touched him. The same voice that thundered like many waters spoke with tenderness. Do not be afraid. In that moment, authority and compassion met. Power did not crush. Glory did not destroy. Grace intervened. I am the first and the last, he said. I am the living one. I was dead, and now, behold, I am alive forever and ever. And I hold the keys of death and Hades. These were not comforting metaphors. They were declarations of dominion. Time itself bowed. Death stood defeated. Eternity was under his rule.
What John saw was nothing less than God himself revealed.
And yet, a question echoes through the centuries. If this is who Jesus truly is, why did the world not see him this way from the beginning? Why did humanity meet a carpenter instead of a king? Why did infinite glory walk the earth clothed in ordinary flesh? The answer is not found in loss, but in love. Jesus did not abandon his majesty. He concealed it. Scripture tells us that he emptied himself, not by surrendering his divinity, but by laying aside its visible splendor. The throne was not forgotten. It was veiled. He remained the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, even while walking dusty roads and sleeping under open skies. The light of heaven burned within him, hidden behind the humility of a servant's life. Every step in Galilee, every tear shed for human suffering, was taken by the same one who had spoken the universe into existence. His glory was not diminished, it was restrained, and that restraint was intentional. For only by hiding his power could he draw near to the broken. Only by veiling his majesty could love reach humanity. This was not weakness. This was divine purpose unfolding in silence. For 30 years, the Creator of all things lived in obscurity. No visible glory surrounded him. No heavenly armies announced his presence. He grew up in Nazareth, unnoticed, obedient, and silent. When he finally began to speak, heal, and move among the people, many still failed to recognize him. Isaiah had foreseen it centuries earlier. He had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him. The world looked for splendor and missed eternity standing before them. Jesus possessed the authority to command nations with a word, yet he chose silence before his accusers. He could summon legions of angels, yet allowed nails to pierce his hands.
The same one John would later see shining like the sun, once knelt on the floor and washed the feet of his disciples. His glory was never forgotten. It was deliberately restrained. By hiding his majesty, Jesus became accessible. He touched the unclean. He sat with sinners. He wept with the grieving and carried human weakness within himself. Had he come clothed in visible fire, no one would have dared approach. But by coming as a servant, he drew near. Love demanded concealment. Only once did the veil briefly lift. On the Mount of Transfiguration, his face shone like the sun, his clothes radiant with light. But it lasted only a moment. The rule was still humility. The glory remained hidden until the mission was complete. On the night before betrayal, Jesus withdrew with his disciples into silence. No crowds, no miracles, just prayer. And in that sacred moment, he spoke words that reached beyond time itself. This was not desperation, it was revelation. Father, the hour has come. Glorify your Son, that your Son may glorify you. But then came the sentence that shattered all human assumptions. Glorify me in your presence with the glory I had with you before the world began. These words were not symbolic, they were absolute. Jesus openly declared his eternal existence before creation, before time, before the world. He did not ask for a new reward. He asked to return to what had always been his by divine right. The glory was ancient, temporarily veiled, now ready to be revealed again. This prayer unveils the deepest mystery of Christ. He was not becoming divine through suffering. He was completing an eternal mission. The Son who knelt in prayer was the same one who shared the Father's glory from eternity. And as the cross drew near, heaven itself leaned in to listen. Before there was time, there was Christ. Before the first star burned in the darkness, before the heavens were stretched out, he already was, present, active, glorious. Creation was not an event he observed from a distance. It was a work he authored. In the beginning, Scripture declares, the Word already was. And that Word was not silent. Through him, all things came into being. Genesis opens with a mystery hidden in plain sight. The name Elohim, plural in form, yet acting as one. From the very first verse, unity and plurality move together. Father, Son, and Spirit acting in perfect harmony. John later pulls back the veil completely. All things were made through him, and without him nothing was made that has been made. Christ was not a tool of creation. He was its source. Paul confirms it with absolute clarity. In him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible. Thrones, powers, authorities. Every realm answers to him. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together. The universe does not merely obey him, it depends on him. And this is what makes the incarnation almost unbearable to comprehend. The one who placed every star chose to lie in a manger. The architect stepped into his own design. The eternal entered time, not to rule, but to restore. If Jesus is the creator,
then his authority is absolute, and Scripture leaves no room for ambiguity. He forgave sins, something only God can do. He commanded storms, and they obeyed. He received worship and never rejected it. When he declared, "I and the Father are one," the religious leaders understood exactly what he meant. They called it blasphemy. Jesus called it truth. In Revelation, that truth reaches its climax. He is the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end. He holds the keys of death and Hades, not as a conqueror who seized them by force, but as the rightful Lord who defeated death through sacrifice.
Death itself now answers to him. This is why he revealed himself to John in glory.
The church was suffering. Empires appeared invincible. Fear threatened to silence faith. And Christ responded, not as a servant, but as king, to declare that the throne is occupied, that history is under his rule, that nothing is out of control. And now the question turns to us. If he is the center of creation, must he not be the center of our lives? If he is Lord of eternity, can we remain indifferent? The glorified Christ still walks among his people, eyes like fire, heart full of grace. He reigns, he lives, and he calls.